8. Maintain infection control standards. Learning objectives. After completing this chapter, you should be able to Learning Objective 8.1 Comply with health and safety laws, regulations, and guidelines, know your legal responsibilities, and follow standard salon policies and procedures for infection control. Learning Objective 8.2 Monitor hygiene of premises, including the removal and disposal of contaminated material, preparation of linen and disposable coverings, and measuring, using, and storing cleaning products. Learning Objective 8.3 Maintain infection control when performing skin penetration procedures, including sharps handling, PPE, single multi-use equipment, and skin preparation. Learning Objective 8.4 Use sterilizing equipment, monitor and validate the process. Learning Objective 8.5 Maintain and show awareness of the clinic design for the purposes of infection control. Introduction. The purpose of infection control is to remove or destroy pathogenic microbial contaminants from the salon to prevent the transmission of infectious disease. It should be assumed that every client who walks into the salon is potentially infectious, so it is important to maintain infection control standards at all times to minimize health and safety risks. Learning Objective 8.1 Complying with infection control legal obligations. It is every employee's responsibility to comply with infection control regulations, guidelines, and other related legal obligations. You need to understand salon health and safety policies and procedures, and know what the potential infection control risks are to abide by the law. Laws, regulations, and guidelines. Salon policies and procedures should cover what you need to do to comply with relevant legislation, but knowing these is not an excuse for not knowing about the law. First, understand the difference between the different types of legislation. Federal legislation, laws that govern the country, created by the Australian government. State or territory legislation, the various laws are usually divided into the same categories as federal legislature, e.g. work health and safety, WHS, equal opportunity, and so on. Each piece of state or territory legislation is an individual interpretation of the law, though it must not conflict with federal law. Local regulations and guidelines. Your local council provides information about the regulations for restrictions to do with the salon premises, health and safety, merchandising, and other business-related matters. Guidelines for skin penetration are also available from your local council. Legal responsibilities. If you cause harm to your client, or put them at risk, you will be held responsible, and you could be liable to prosecution, and the salon could potentially be fined. There is a good deal of legislation relating to health and safety. You will need to know about the laws relating to beauty therapy. Details are widely available, so to be aware of your responsibilities and your rights. Obtain and read all relevant publications from your local WHS regulatory authority. Relevant Australian and New Zealand legislation. Overarching federal laws, acts, cover health and safety, product safety, privacy, and so on. Regulations are a set of mandatory requirements that are consistent with the Act. In Australia, every state and territory has its own interpretation of the Act, and thus its own regulations. Your local health and safety authority administers those regulations, and this is why the laws vary across Australia. Figure 8.1 lists the relevant federal, Commonwealth, legislation in Australia and New Zealand that serve to protect the rights of clients, staff, and management in the salon workplace. Salon Infection Control Policy and Procedures. You are responsible for making sure you are up to date with current WHS legislation and reviewing the WHS policies and procedures of the salon to see that they match up. Report to the salon manager if you think the salon is not compliant in some way. Compliance. As mentioned earlier, good infection control policy is to assume that every person who enters the salon is potentially infectious. Ensure that you are following proper WHS procedures at all times. Your salon has provided an appropriate first aid kit for the salon needs, that salon staff can access the kit, and at least one staff member is trained in first aid. Your salon provides correct and adequate personal protective equipment, PPE, and ensures staff wear the PPE correctly and when required. Infection control. Effective hygiene is necessary in the salon to prevent cross-infection and secondary infection. Skin infections often result from poor practice, such as the use of implements that are not clean. Infection can be indicated by red and inflamed skin, or the presence of pus. Cross-infection occurs because some microorganisms are contagious. They may be transferred through personal contact, or by contact with an infected instrument that has not been disinfected or sterilized. Secondary infection can occur if microorganisms penetrate the skin and cause infection to an existing cut or a wound sustained during the treatment. Sterilization and disinfection procedures minimize or destroy the harmful microbes that could cause infection: bacteria, viruses, fungi, or parasites. A disease can be regarded as an abnormal physiological functioning of the cells, tissues, or organs of the body. Diseases can be non-infectious diseases, with no microbes involved, for example, diabetes, epilepsy, eczema. Infectious diseases, where microbes alone are the causative agent. Examples of diseases include colds and flus, herpes simplex, cold sores, tinea infections, and lice. Infectious diseases that are contagious contraindicate beauty treatment. They require medical attention. People with certain non-contagious skin disorders should also not be treated by the beauty therapist, as treatment might lead to secondary infection. Any person who is sick, infected, or carrying a contagious disease is a risk and liability to the functioning and success of a salon. They should be sent home until they are no longer a risk. Adapted from Dylan Webb's work in Victoria University's Student Resource Infection in the Salon, Student Guide 2004. Basic precautions against disease transmission. Salon infection control policies and procedures are implemented to protect you from disease transmission. Infectious diseases are controlled and prevented by routines of hygienic good practice. Specialized health practices, such as sterile packaging, wearing PPE, and so on. Identification of suspected infectious disease. Knowing the modes of transmission of infectious disease and containing the risk. Referral to appropriate healthcare services for proper diagnosis and treatment. Adapted from Dylan Webb's work in Victoria University's Student Resource Infection in the Salon, Student Guide 2004. Infection control risks for skin penetration treatments. The most common cause of cross-infection is from person to person. That may be from you to a client, from a client to another client, or from a vector, an animal, to a person. The infection comes from an infectious agent, a microbe. The microbe may be a bacteria, fungi, virus, or parasite, and these can cause disease. Contaminated versus infectious. An object with infectious microbes on it is said to be contaminated, for example, a work surface or an instrument. You can describe a person who is affected by an infectious microbe as infected, for example, once we recognize sneezing or inflammation. Diseases that are caused by various microbes that you might come across in the salon are listed in Figure 8.2. Figure 8.2, Examples of microbial infections. Potential infection control risks. Identify infection control risks and monitor the workplace for potential infection control risks by routinely performing and revisiting the risk assessment procedure outlined in step-by-step risk assessment. Infection control procedures are undertaken with an element of risk associated with each activity. Infection control risks may be biological exposure to pathogenic microbes, chemical exposure to toxic chemicals, injury, such as needle stick injury. Infection control activities. Infection control activities with a medium to high potential risk include cleaning, disinfection, and sterilization of equipment and surfaces, disposal of sharps, disposal of biological waste. Step-by-step risk control assessment. Risk control assessments for infection are completed to prioritize action for WHS. Hazard identification. 1. The activity, for example, cuticle work with nippers. 2. What the infection control risk is, for example, cross-infection by contaminated instruments. 3. Likelihood of risk, that is, rate likelihood from insignificant to catastrophic. 4. Consequence of risk, that is, rate consequence from rare to certain. 5. Rate the risk from low to high. This helps management to prioritize actions. 6. Action. How will the risk be minimized for the activity? For example, follow autoclave procedures in between clients for cuticle nippers. 7. Note the person responsible for the action. Waste disposal risk control. 1. Identify infection control risks when disposing of waste. 2. Type of waste, for example, biohazardous waste, sharps. 3. Hazard or risk, that is, what harm could it cause to people? For example, cross-infection of blood-borne disease. 4. Risk control, that is, disposal method. For example, dispose of in sharps container, biohazard bin. 5. Note the person responsible for the action. Learning Objective 8.2 Monitoring hygiene of premises. Routinely check the salon for hygiene risks, including floors, surfaces, sterile and non-sterile equipment, sharps, laundry, waste, and cleaning areas, to avoid WHS incidents. Ensure surfaces and equipment are cleaned and disinfected. Surfaces and equipment are to be cleaned and disinfected according to the WHS procedures, as outlined in Figure C.4 in Appendix C. Treatment area and equipment. Use a checklist to check that the following areas are cleaned regularly, as appropriate. Walls and ceilings. Floors and carpets. Tables, bench tops, trolleys, and equipment such as magnifying lamps. Bathroom and toilet. Cleaning equipment, such as mops, sponges, cleaning areas, and drying racks. Clean and disinfect non-penetrating instruments and articles. Sterilization is the total destruction of all living microorganisms and their spores. Disinfection is the destruction of most living microorganisms from tools, equipment, and work areas. Sterilization and disinfection techniques practiced in the beauty salon involve the use of physical agents, such as radiation and heat, and chemical agents, such as antiseptics and disinfectants. Items that have been used for skin penetration, such as microlenses and electrolysis needles, have blood or body fluids on them. Sterilization is used for cleaning items potentially contaminated with blood and body fluids, and discussed later in this chapter. Types of disinfection. There are two main steps that can reduce the number of microorganisms on an object. Cleaning and washing to remove microorganisms from the object. This usually involves the use of detergents or solvents to remove microorganisms from an object. Thermal disinfection, which uses dry or moist heat to kill microorganisms, or chemical disinfection, which uses antimicrobial agents to kill microorganisms. In practice, it is usually not possible to separate the processes of cleaning and disinfecting. We often clean and chemically disinfect an object at the same time. Chemical disinfection. To ensure an object is disinfected, you need to first remove all surface debris by wiping it down. All excess product should be put in the bin, not flushed down the sink. Rinse the object with running water. Use a hospital-grade disinfectant, or at a dilution, that is approved by the Therapeutic Goods Administration, TGA, and WHS regulators for salon purposes. Chemical disinfectants need to be left on the object for a period of time to function. In this case, always follow the manufacturer's instructions. Adapted from Dylan Webb's work in Victoria University's Student Resource Infection in the Salon, Student Guide 2004. Contaminated material. Ensure biohazardous, that is, potentially infectious waste is removed from the treatment area and disposed of appropriately. When dealing with material contaminated with blood and body fluids, wear heavy-duty gloves. Disinfect as appropriate. Label plastic bags containing blood or body fluids infectious waste. Follow Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, regulations when disposing of waste. Dispose of tissues and PPE masks used to protect against COVID-19 after they have been worn for 4 hours in a lined pedal bin. See step-by-step. Dispose of PPE masks. Sharps and blood or body fluid spills. All beauty workers must take precautions to prevent injury and blood-borne disease caused by unsafe practices when working with sharps and contaminated objects. Sharps is a medical industry definition for items that are sharp enough to pierce or cut the skin. When handling sharps, follow step-by-step skin penetration procedure, including disposal of biohazardous waste and sharps. Do not recap or bend a needle. If you are to put the needle down during a treatment procedure, place it in alcohol-soaked cotton, e.g. alcohol wipe, in a sterile container, such as a kidney dish. Handle the needle by its barrel and with a gloved hand. Remember that all needles are single-use. They cannot be reused on another client. A sharps container is clearly labeled with a black biohazard symbol on it. It is yellow and puncture-proof, with a top that is designed to allow items to be placed in but not fall out. When disposing of sharps, dispose of the needle immediately after use on the client. Avoid clogging a sharps container by throwing the cap in with the needle. Replace the sharps container when it is 2/3 full. Step by step, clean blood or body fluid spills. 1. Isolate the area. 2. Put on fresh gloves, a plastic apron, and goggles. 3. Soak fluid with paper towel and disinfect with bleach or other appropriate hospital-grade disinfectant, according to the manufacturer's instruction. 4. Place soaked items and gloves in a sealed plastic bag and dispose of appropriately. 5. Put on new gloves. 6. Wash the area with hot water and detergent. 7. Dry the area. 8. Wash your hands. 9. Rinse and disinfect apron and contaminated clothing or linen in hot water and detergent. Step by step, skin and blood-to-blood contact. If you come into contact with blood or body fluid, follow these steps. 2. Rinse the skin with running water. 3. Follow with warm soapy water. 4. Apply first aid aseptically if needle stick. 5. Report the incident to a colleague. 6. Complete an incident or accident report form and log it in the book, as per salon policies and procedures. If there is a possibility that you have contracted a blood-borne disease as a result of a skin penetration procedure, such as a needle stick injury, it is recommended that you seek the advice of a GP, the health department of your local council, the Communicable Disease Prevention and Control Unit, or equivalent, for your state or territory, your local WHS authority, an Employee Assistance Program, EAP, for counselling services. Dilution rates, use, and storage of cleaning products. It is important to know the dilution rates, the use, and the storage of chemicals for disinfecting items, to both ensure they destroy microorganisms and do not corrode the item itself. If an item cannot be disinfected, perform a risk assessment, as described in step-by-step risk assessment in this chapter, to decide whether it is better to use an alternative reusable item that can be disinfected or a disposable item. An antiseptic prevents the multiplication of microorganisms. It has a limited action and does not kill all microorganisms. Antiseptics are suitable for use as hand soaps. All sterilization and disinfection techniques must be carried out safely and effectively. Select the appropriate method of sterilization or disinfection of the object. Figure 8.3 is a guide to cleaning agents, disinfectants, and antiseptics. Always follow the manufacturer's guidelines on the use of the sterilizing or disinfecting unit or agent. Obtain the instructions for use and the safety data sheet, SDS, for the chemical or sterilization equipment you are to use and identify the correct dilution, use, storage, diluting chemicals. The dilution of hospital-strength cleaners, such as bleach, is not necessarily clearly labeled by the manufacturer. The strength dilution of the chemical alters the final dilution. For example, you might contact the manufacturer and they tell you to dilute their 5.25% household bleach to a 1% solution for the purpose of disinfecting salon equipment. 1% dilution is 10 milliliters bleach, 1 L water. Use. The manufacturer is required to provide you with adequate direction in the use of the cleaning products they sell. It may be in booklet form, or you may be directed to the company website, a hotline, or the supplier's representative for more information. Safety information on the unsafe and unintended use of the product is found in the SDS. SDSs specify dilution rates, time the disinfectant needs to be on the article, whether to rinse, and for how long the article needs to be dried to ensure microorganisms are sufficiently disinfected. Figure 8.4 is a guide to dilution rates and times. Storage. Chemical storage instructions are clearly written on SDSs. Some chemicals cannot be stored together, some are flammable with toxic vapors, and some are corrosive and need to be placed on a plastic tray. Storage of cleaning and treatment equipment. The storage area for cleaning and treatment equipment needs to be maintained and operated according to WHS legislative requirements. Ensure that you secure the storage area from access by unauthorized people, primarily clients and visitors. Equipment that is valuable or specialized may be locked away to be accessed only by staff trained to use it. Identify hazards and risks in the storage area, such as humidity, shelves that are not lined with impervious material, such as linoleum, and so on. Place safety warnings and safety information as required for dangerous substances, such as bleach. Maintain and check equipment before storing according to the manufacturer's instructions and salon policy. Store chemicals and disposable items according to the manufacturer's instructions, or the SDS. Clean PPE and check that it still works and can provide safety when worn. Store according to the manufacturer's instructions. Review store documentation and information, such as stock control records. Remove waste in the storage area, such as chemicals past expiry, packaging, used or contaminated PPE or consumables, damaged equipment. Move equipment in a safe and controlled way to and from the storage area. Clean linen and PPE. Linen cannot be reused until it is washed according to WHS legislation requirements. It is becoming more commonplace, in some instances, to use disposable, recyclable coverings, such as hot towels and bedrolls, if it is more sustainable for the business or the environment. Figure 8.5 is a guide to the recommendations and cleaning protocol for linen and PPE. Linen and protective clothing can be purchased in both disposable and non-disposable varieties to suit the salon's needs. Linen can include towels, sheets, blankets, and fitted treatment couch liners. Protective clothing can include gowns, headbands, and slippers. Some items, for hygiene reasons, must be disposable, such as underwear, body treatments, spray tan, thongs after pedicures, and protective hair caps. As soon as possible after use, place non-disposable soiled linen and protective clothing in a suitable receptacle and store, as outlined in Figure 8.5. Clean and disinfect work area after treatment. Keep the treatment areas clean by cleaning and disinfecting the surfaces and equipment after every treatment so that everything is ready for the next client. Remove dirty items from the treatment area to the cleaning area and clean the following areas according to salon policies and procedures and WHS legislative requirements, as described in Figure C.4 in Appendix C. Treatment area and equipment. Surfaces, trolleys, bench tops, walls including switches, doors including door handles, and ceiling. Floor, carpet, tiles and vinyl, including skirting boards. Beauty machines and other equipment, such as magnifying lamp, oil burner. Rubbish bin. Treatment couch and therapist chair. Sink and taps. Mirrors and windows. Curtains or Venetians. Spot clean obvious dirt that is not a health and safety risk and disinfect areas that the client is in contact with. Learning Objective 8.3 Maintaining infection control for skin penetration treatments. It must be assumed that all blood and body fluids are potentially infectious, so the infection control procedures ought to be your top priority when performing any skin penetration treatment. Maintain personal protection. Personal protection is not only PPE. There are protective measures known as standard and additional precautions that you can take to reduce chemical, biological, and injury risk to yourself, your colleagues, and clients. The potential risks to beauty therapists include allergic contact dermatitis, chemical burns, needle stick injury, burns. Personal protection for beauty therapists includes PPE gloves, glasses, aprons, and surgical masks for respiratory protection. Training to fit the PPE properly. Barrier cream to apply to skin repeatedly exposed to an irritant chemical. Waterproof dressing over broken skin. Covered shoes to protect against heat and chemical splashes, such as hot wax. Single-use, disposable, and clean instruments. In every case, instruments that have contact with the skin, hair, or nails must be clean for each client. Ensure that you only use single-use, disposable, or clean tools and equipment for each client. Items that are available as single-use, disposable, or reusable are indicated in Figure 8.6. Sharps, such as electrolysis needles or microlenses, are only single-use because they cannot be effectively cleaned or sterilized. You check for the manufacturer's label of assurance of sterility and sealed packaging. You maintain sterility before use, i.e. store in clean, sealed containers. Ensure instruments, equipment, or other items are sterile. In order to be assured that sterilized tools, equipment, and other items that are intended to penetrate the skin or be used on mucous membranes are sterile at the time of use, you need to monitor the objects in the salon. The workflow: ensure the item is in the clean area and move to the sterile storage area. If it is moved to the dirty area or any area other than the clean area, it must be re-sterilized. Handling: use tongs and a gloved hand to move sterilized items. Autoclave bagged items: critically inspect the bag to ensure it is sealed and labeled and the indicator shows that it has been sterilized properly. Vacuum sealed items: critically inspect packages of needles and other sterile implements. Check that the packaging is intact. Any breach in the seal indicates contamination. Skin penetration procedures. To prevent the risk of infection transmission, skin penetration procedures must be followed according to local, state or territory, and federal WHS legislation and regulations for skin penetration procedures. Step-by-step, skin penetration procedure, including disposal of biohazardous waste and sharps. 1. Wash your hands and put on fresh disposable gloves. 2. Place a fresh disposable tissue on the treatment couch near where the skin penetration is to occur. 3. Place an alcohol swab in a glass bowl and position it in the aseptic space. A. Open a microlance needle. Dispose of the plastic in the rubbish. B. Remove its cap with a careful twist and place the plastic cap in the rubbish. C. Place the needle point in the alcohol swab. 4. Prepare the skin, as described in step-by-step. Prepare the skin for a skin penetration procedure. 5. Perform skin penetration with cotton tips, disposable wipes, tissues, metal extractor, and needles as required. Leave all materials used in the skin penetration procedure in the aseptic space. They will all become biohazardous material. 6. Clean the skin with a fresh alcohol wipe. 7. Dispose of the needle in the sharps container. 8. Prepare to dispose of biohazardous material. A. Put aside the glass bowl and metal extractor for cleaning and place all biohazardous material in the center of the aseptic space at tissue. B. Fold the corners in to wrap the materials in the tissue. Hold it in your gloved hand, then turn the glove inside out over the material so that the glove encases it. C. Repeat the procedure with the other gloved hand. D. Take the biohazardous material immediately to the biohazard bin for disposal. 9. Wash hands and wear gloves for the remainder of any further skin treatment. Step-by-step. Prepare the skin for skin penetration procedure. 1. Even if the skin does not appear to be dirty, cleanse it with an appropriate cleanser for the area to be treated. 2. Rinse the skin. 3. Apply an antiseptic to the skin, such as a 70% V of V isopropyl alcohol swab. Check that the package is intact and do not use if the seal has been breached. Swab is moist and has not passed its use-by date. 4. Swab the skin in a circular motion, starting at the center of the area to be treated. 5. Dispose of the swab. When moving to another area of the body or repeating over the same area, use a fresh swab. 6. Keep hair away from the skin penetration site. ***. Dispose of single-use items and waste. Single-use items need to be disposed of as soon as possible to avoid mess and spread of infection in the salon. Waste containers must be clearly labeled. Sharps waste. Recycling. General waste. Biohazardous waste. You should not need to open a door to access the appropriate waste bin. Potentially contaminated items. Throughout the salon workday, remove any reusable items that are potentially contaminated from salon areas and take them to the cleaning area. Separate them into A, those that need to be disinfected, and B, those that need to be sterilized, as appropriate, according to your salon protocol. Thermal disinfection or sterilization. Sterilization devices use heat, steam, and pressure to effectively kill all microbes and spores efficiently and reliably. The only two methods of sterilization in the beauty industry are the glass bead sterilizer and the autoclave. The glass bead sterilizer is useful for the quick sterilization of small tools, such as tweezers and scissors. However, it is impractical for many items at once. Autoclaving is the most effective method for sterilizing objects in the salon. An autoclave, similar to a pressure cooker, sterilizes using boiling water. Depending on the duration of the cycle, the steam reaches a temperature of 121 to 134 degrees Celsius. Radiation. Another method used for disinfecting is an ultraviolet UV cabinet, figure 8.7. A quartz mercury vapor lamp is the source of UV light, which destroys microorganisms. For the object to be radiation sterilized, it must be turned regularly so that the UV light reaches all surfaces. In a cabinet that has all globes working 100%. Left for a number of hours, according to the manufacturer's instruction. For this reason, the UV cabinet has limited efficiency and cannot be relied upon for sterilization or disinfection, although the cabinet can be a useful clean zone for storing disinfected or sterilized objects. Learning Objective 8.4 Sterilizing equipment and maintaining sterilizer. Cleaning, checking, and operating sterilizing equipment is imperative so that you can rely on the process for infection control against harmful and life-threatening infectious disease. Ensure work flows from dirty zone to clean zone. Make sure that your items move from the dirty zone to the clean zone and never in the reverse direction, to avoid contamination of reusable items. Clean zone. A clean zone should have items that have been disinfected or sterilized. Keep sterilization records in the clean zone. Keep autoclave bags in the clean zone. The clean zone must be cleaned after objects have been cleared for storage. Dirty zone. All items that have been received from the treatment area are contaminated. The items are reusable and cannot be disposed of. This includes items in the treatment area that have not been used. They need to be cleaned as a contaminated item. The dirty zone must be cleaned after it has been cleared. Asterisk asterisk step by step, clean and dry items to be sterilized. 1. Collect items to be sterilized. 2. Wear disposable gloves when cleaning. 3. Identify the dirt and debris that requires cleaning, decide on the process, and select the appropriate disinfectant. 4. Rinse the tools and implements first with running water. 5. Scrub tools and equipment with a clean brush, disinfectant, and warm water. Heating in water helps to liquefy oil and break down proteins found in skin and bacteria. 6. Thoroughly rinse disinfectant from tools and equipment. 7. Inspect tools and equipment for residual debris if they are unclean. Repeat the cleaning procedure. 8. Dry implements and equipment. 9. Package tools and equipment in an autoclave bag. Hinged implements such as scissors, clippers, and cuticle nippers should be open. 10. Label the package and indicator with item description, date, your initials. Clean and dry items to be sterilized. Collect items from the dirty area that need to be sterilized. Any item that can withstand the temperature, humidity, and pressure of the autoclave can be sterilized. Common salon items that are sterilized in the autoclave include metal implements such as tweezers, manicure tools, cuticle nippers, clippers, cuticle pushers, scissors, some medical-grade plastic such as kidney dishes, glassware such as vacuum suction vento uses, glass bowls, aromatherapy bottles. Some autoclaves will sterilize wooden implements, such as orange sticks. Load and set the sterilizer. Load the sterilizer and set the sterilizer cycle according to Australian Standard NZ Standard 4815:2006 office-based health care facilities, reprocessing of reusable medical and surgical instruments and equipment, and maintenance of the associated environment. The autoclave should only be used by those trained to do so. Always follow the manufacturer's instructions when using an autoclave. This is general information and advice only. Not all objects can be safely placed in the autoclave. Before using this method, check whether the items you wish to sterilize can withstand the heating process. All objects should be cleaned before being placed in the autoclave to remove surface dirt and debris. To avoid damaging the autoclave, always use distilled deionized water. To avoid rusting, metal objects placed in the sterilizing unit must be of good quality stainless steel. Asterisk asterisk step by step, load the sterilizer and set. Note that not all objects are durable enough to withstand the heating process. As a general rule, only use the autoclave for medical-grade plastic and metal objects. Also, do not load the autoclave if there is not sufficient time to run, and unload the autoclave within 24 hours. Do not allow the autoclave bags to get wet while waiting to be loaded. 1. Disinfect, wash, and dry all objects before placing them in the autoclave bags, as described in step-by-step, clean and dry items to be sterilized. 2. Check that the autoclave and its trays have been disinfected, washed, and dried. 3. Label the autoclave bag with a marker, as approved by the equipment manufacturer. You need to write on the bag, according to salon policy. Treatment room or salon area. Date or time. Your name. Items in the autoclave bag. 4. With gloved hands, place items to be sterilized in the autoclave bags. Do not overfill the bags. There must be sufficient space for the hot steam to reach all surfaces of the object. 1. Load the bags onto the trays of the sterilizer. Space the autoclave bags on the trays so that they have room to expand, and the steam reaches the whole surface of the item. 2. Check that there is sufficient distilled deionized water. Tap water will damage the autoclave. 3. Check that the gasket is intact and not showing signs of corrosion. The gasket is the rubber seal, typically found on the door of the autoclave. 4. Set the autoclave. Temperature. The temperature should reach 121 degrees Celsius on a normal cycle, or 134 degrees Celsius on a quick cycle. Pressure. The pressure should range from 15 to 18 psi, depending on your machine. Unload the sterilizer. Unload the autoclave packages, inspect for sterilizing, validate and record details according to manufacturer instructions and Australian Standard NZ Standard 4815:2006. If the sterilization process was not complete, the items must be reprocessed. Step by step, validate sterilization. Unload and inspect. 1. Unload the packages with gloved hands. 2. Inspect the items to ensure they have been adequately sterilized and dried. Validation. 3. For the equipment to be considered a safe and effective sterilizer, it needs to be validated. Inspect the machine for faults, rust, broken seals, leaks. Test the machine function, use the chemical indicator or biological indicator once per month in a challenging area of the autoclave chamber, farthest from the heat source. The autoclave tape should always show that the temperature has been reached. A chemical indicator is a test strip that changes color when sterilizing is complete. Most autoclave bags and autoclave tape have something similar, though not as effective. The biological indicator is a more reliable test using spores of a bacteria in 2 vials. One vial is placed in the chamber of the autoclave, the other is not. The autoclave is put through a cycle. Both are later incubated to see where the spores grow. Spores should grow in the test vial, but if spores grow in the one that was in the autoclave, you can assume the autoclave is faulty. 4. Record and file details of maintenance checks including date, description of checks, and your initials. Your autoclave might print the records automatically. It will print the time, pressure, and temperature at various intervals throughout the cycle. All records are maintained according to the manufacturer's instructions and Australian Standard 1410:1987 sterilizers steam pre-vacuum. Step by step, operate the autoclave. 1. Wash hands, dry them, and put on gloves. 2. Collect autoclave bags containing disinfected items to be sterilized and supplies needed to autoclave items. This includes distilled water, chemical integrator indicator or biological indicator, paper towels. 3. Check the water level according to the manufacturer's instructions. Remove the reservoir cover, usually on the top of the autoclave. The water level should be at the bottom of a ring release valve. If the water level is low, add distilled water, but do not overfill the autoclave, as it can dangerously affect the pressure balance. 4. Place the chemical indicator on a middle shelf of the autoclave, or as directed by the manufacturer. The indicator is designed to be used at certain stages of the autoclave cycle. 5. Document and record the autoclave load, according to Salon protocol. 6. Load the autoclave according to the manufacturer's recommendations, ensuring the items are spaced adequately and the machine is not overloaded. 7. Select Fill on the autoclave function options. 8. Allow water to fill until it reaches the indicator at the front of the chamber. Follow the manufacturer's guidelines. 9. Select Start. It won't start until the timer has been set. 10. Close and secure the autoclave door. Avoid over-tightening the door, the seal will wear out. 11. Set the autoclave timer to start the sterilization process. Typically, it is set to 40 minutes for the first cycle of the day and 30 minutes when the machine is already warm. Store sterile items. Sterile packages are to be cooled and stored in a clean, dry area to prevent contamination. Follow salon policies and procedures for storage, which may require you to observe the following. Any packages that are wet need to be repackaged and re-sterilized. Do not overstock the sterile area. Take from the front and replace at the back, or according to salon protocol, ensure the cleanest is the last to be picked. The less handling the better. Notify salon management if stock numbers are inadequate. Load a trolley or tray to make sure you transport items safely and securely. Step by step, monitor and inspect the sterilizing process. To be sure that the sterilizer is working, monitor the process while the machine is on, and inspect the machine when it has completed its cycle to see that it is clean, with clean trays. You need to know that it is working according to the manufacturer's instructions. 1. Monitor the autoclave dials to be sure that the required temperature is reached. The manufacturer will stipulate this. It depends upon the size of the machine and the pressure and temperature combined. 2. Check records to ensure the autoclave has been consistently working. 3. At the end of the processing time, vent the autoclave as per the manufacturer's directions. 4. Allow the autoclave to completely cool before removing packages. 5. Follow the manufacturer's instructions to thoroughly disinfect the autoclave and autoclave trays. Learning Objective 8.5 Maintaining awareness of clinic design for control of infection risks. Maintain your awareness of the design of the salon premises for infection control purposes. It is your job to make suggestions to the Health and Safety Representative, HSR, or the salon manager to minimize the WHS risk in your work environment. Salon design for infection control. The salon needs to be easily cleaned and able to withstand the regular cleaning procedures required for infection control. Figure 8.8 can help you to identify aspects of salon design that minimize the risk of disease transmission. Consider the design of the premises, surfaces, fixtures, and fittings. Arrange cleaning area. The cleaning area should have a dirty zone and a clean zone clearly demarcated and communicated to avoid the contamination of clean objects. Ideally, a busy salon will have clean and dirty signs to make this clear. The dirty area in the cleaning area is quickly accessible so that items to be cleaned do not get left in clean areas. There is plenty of space in the clean and the dirty areas to place items when not able to move along the workflow immediately. The sterile area has the autoclave bags, and sterilization records in the area. It might have a UV cabinet to store items that cannot be autoclaved. Always wear gloves when in the sterile area. The sterile area should not be in a thoroughfare. All cleaning areas are disinfected thoroughly after every use. Left uncluttered. Single-use items are disposed of immediately. Cleaning and sterilizing area. The dirty area, clean area, and the sterile area must be free from anything that can contaminate beauty equipment. Put on fresh gloves and wipe all surfaces clean and dry, according to salon policy and procedures, Figure 8.9. Dust and dampness can accumulate in areas that seem clean, so regular wiping of the surfaces is important in the clean zones. Refer to Appendix C Treatment Area and Equipment for details about how to clean different salon surfaces and equipment. Assessment of knowledge and understanding. You have now learned how to comply with infection control regulations and legislation, and how to monitor the hygiene in the salon while maintaining an awareness of the clinic design for infection risks. You have also learned how to maintain infection control during skin penetration procedures, and how to use and maintain sterilizing equipment. To check your understanding, answer the following short questions. Complying with infection control and legal obligations. 1. Describe the difference between a cross-infection and a secondary infection. 2. Give 2 examples of ways in which infectious diseases are controlled and prevented. 3. True or false, it is only the responsibility of the salon owner, and not the beauty therapist, to know and understand the laws relating to beauty therapy, as it's their business. 4. What is the best way for a salon to approach infection control policy? 5. If you have an infectious disease, a microbe would have had to affect you. What are the 6 conditions that are to be met for this to occur? 6. Define the difference between an infection and a contamination. 7. Of the following microbial infections, identify if they are bacterial, fungal, viral, or parasitic. A. Chickenpox. B. Ringworm. C. Impetigo. D. Sty. E. Thrush. F. Cold sores. G. HIV or AIDS. H. Conjunctivitis. I. Scabies. J. Tinea pedis. Monitoring hygiene of premises. 1. Describe the difference between sterilization and a disinfectant. 2. What is the best way to know how to use a chemical disinfectant appropriately? 3. List the steps taken when dealing with items or areas that have been soiled with body fluids. 4. Give an example of when you would use the following cleaning agents in the salon. A. Solvents. B. Water. C. Bleach. 5. When storing and cleaning treatment equipment, which one of the following options is incorrect? A. Identify hazards and risks in the storage area. B. Clean PPE and check that it still works and can provide safety when worn. C. The storage area doesn't need to be secured, as long as the cleaning and treatment equipment is clearly labeled. D. All waste in the storage area should be removed. 6. What is the main benefit of using disposable coverings, as opposed to reusable linen? Maintaining infection control for skin penetration treatments. 1. Explain why the following personal protection would be unacceptable in a salon. A. Open-toed shoes. B. Gloves that don't fit properly. C. Broken skin with no waterproof dressing on it. 2. List the step-by-step procedures used to prepare the skin for a skin penetration procedure. 3. Fill in the correct name of the thermal disinfection or sterilization method below. The use is boiling water, heat, and increased pressure to sterilize objects. Sterilizing equipment and maintaining sterilizer. 1. Explain the importance of a dirty zone and a clean zone in a salon. 2. When storing sterile items, does the storage area need to be dry or wet? Why? What should be done if the package you are storing is wet? Maintaining awareness of clinic design for control of infection risks. 1. When thinking about salon design, what are the feature considerations to think about for the storage areas? 2. What should always be worn when in the sterile area of the salon?